Welcome back to Beyond the Stats. Jazz versus the New Zealand
Breakers.
Breakers. I was going to say Berserkers, and I was like, that's not right.
New Zealand Breakers. You bring it up, it's oddly enough, with us two going to Utah State University. This is a team that we've had our eye on for a while, way back to when Gary Wilkinson and a little bit later on Ty Wesley, a couple of ex-Aggie greats, went and played for New Zealand. And so it's not a new team for us at all. And I know that they've won, a handful of championships in the early teens of the years, but very cool to see them come into town again. You can tell a very well coached team. That's a good pickup in Anthony Lamb that you have there.
Yeah, shocked he's not playing in the league.
That's a great pickup.
Man, he played good, and then their little point guard is
lightning fast,
explosive. That's for sure.
Fast. That'll be cool to see you guys. Speaking to the New Zealand fans out there, great to see you guys come to town, and it'll be interesting to see you get back into your season, how you do through the year. If you want to get on there and subscribe to the channel, leave some comments in there, and we'll definitely be following you as we have in years past with some of the ex-Aggie greats. It was cool to see it kind of come full circle.
100%. That was awesome. Awesome to be able to see them come in and play at the stadium. So really cool to see. Obviously, going to the Jazz, game like this, kind of hard to get a feel for. Right? This is a preseason game.
Right.
So what were some things that kind of stood out to you?
I really liked John Collins seems to be getting more involved each game that goes along.
He looked good tonight.
And you can tell that he doesn't have the timing with everybody, but he sure has timing with Keontae George.
There's several games now we've seen that pick and roll, and Keontae finds him quickly and gets him in space, and Collins is waiting for that pass.
Boy, Keontae just has a feel for the correct way to the pass and the correct window that you can't always teach every aspect of that. There are just glimpses in his game that are special.
Which truthfully, when we drafted him, I did not know if he had that. Obviously there's a lot of coaching that needs to go into it, but there's some of those just natural things that come from certain point guards that he sees it so early. He's thrown a couple alley-oops. You've mentioned he's thrown a couple alley-oops and a couple passes that he's throwing it so early.
He throws it early, and he passes the player into the position they need to be in, and it's nice. There were a handful of pundits watching some of his college games and kind of doing the scouting report for the draft. They were saying that yes, he had a decent amount of playmaking, but it looked too scripted, and they wondered if it was real. It's real.
It's legit.
It's real.
He looks good.
The passes that he makes out of the pick and roll and dissecting, it's very nice. But back to the John Collins thing, I think that he's growing in. I think that we really need to intentionally get more shots. I mean, he was 4 of 5. I guess if he were to end up with 10 field goal attempts per game, that would be in a good range.
Yeah.
Collins and Markkanen and Kessler essentially just played the first half, right? And we had 23 field goal attempts. That's a decent number.
And Markkanen, with those field goal attempts, Markkanen missed his first 5.
Yeah.
He struggled tonight with his shot early, and then really found it in the second quarter, I feel like. But yeah, getting those guys a lot of looks is really important for our season.
Yeah. And it was great to see a lot of the young guys come in after. And, I mean, we can get to that part of it. One thing I was going to ask is, if we were to kind of raise up to the 30,000-foot view and give kind of an overview of the Jazz team at this point, what would be some of the things you'd bring up just in the preseason getting ready?
Oof. We don't, in my opinion, we don't look ready to make any sort of push in the playoffs. We look like a team that's still really trying to find themselves, in my opinion. A lot of that's with young or new players on the team, like John Collins, with the rookies. A lot of that's not really knowing who's going to start at guard. We're still testing a lot of things, but we definitely look like a team that's still trying to figure out how to play together.
I agree with that. I think that overall our depth, as far as 1 through 12, is good.
It's deep,
and our bench will give some teams some trouble quite a few teams, as a matter of fact. That's for sure. Kind of trying to hammer out who we are as an identity of the team. I think that we're slowing the ball down a lot more than I thought we would. I thought we'd be much more of a transition team.
Which I hate. Actually, I think our team's built to run. John Collins, Larry Markkinen, Ochai Agbaji, Keontae George. These are all guys who are very good in the open floor. We should be pushing it. And they're young, and we're young,
I think we'll have certain lineups that will push it much more. I'm not sure if we've seen kind of the lineup that I would like to see is Agbaji with Keontae George and then the 3 starting bigs. Yes. I think that 5 would really push it. I'm not sure if we've seen those on the court at the same time or not. A lot of teams now in the NBA are going to kind of the Jokic model because it seems like whatever team wins the championship, teams, everybody tries to mimic it and mock it a little bit. Not mock it, but mimic it and copy it. And we don't really have, obviously, Jokic, only one team in the league does, or even that type of a playmaking big. But we do have some pieces in there that are nice. The addition of John Collins and having an extra physical piece that will do some of the dirty work and be a great roll man and can stretch the floor and hit the 3. I heard a stat. This will kind of blow your mind.
Okay.
I heard a stat. So the number 1 duo in the league of one player getting assist to another player was Harden and Joel Embiid. No shocker there, right?
Right.
James Harden led the league last year in assists. And the number 2 duo, any guess on who that would be?
The number 2 duo
was actually
was it Clarkson and one of our guys?
It was Jokic to Aaron Gordon.
Oh, wow.
That was the number 2 duo in the league.
To Aaron Gordon? Actually, that makes sense. When you say it, now that you say it, it makes sense because of where Jokic caught it and where Gordon excels.
And that kind of a player, which is kind of like the Andrew Wiggins player the year before that, right, that helped the Warriors win the championship. Right. A player like that's willing to get in there and do the dirty work, play some athletic, aggressive defense and roll the rim and shoot like John Collins can, and he's showing, is quite a luxury. And I'm excited to see the development of the team and how we can use him and figure out who we are and grow into it.
That's what I think is going to be really important about this season is John Collins and Larry Markkinen's ability to make big-to-big passes. Their ability to make those kinds of plays is going to make Kessler's job a whole lot easier.
Yeah, we saw Collins do that with Kessler underneath today. And then the other thing that really stands out is we've played, this is our 4th preseason game.
Yes.
4th preseason game. And in every single game, one thing that you cannot argue is that when Chris Dunn comes in the game, he immediately changes the game.
This is one of those games that it is hard to imagine watching this game and not being convinced that he's clearly the best guard, not point guard, the best guard on this team. Defensively, not just defensively, but defensively, it's obviously not an NBA team, but no one else was doing what he was doing defensively. He came in and immediately put on pressure confidently, aggressively, and just got his hand on ball after ball after ball after ball.
Without having to take away touches. He doesn't have to pound the dribble. He had 0 field goal attempts tonight. So listen to this line. He played 7 minutes. 0 for 0 from the field. But he had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 0 turnovers, and I think I counted at least 3 other tipped balls he got into passing lanes on.
Well, and how many assists aren't on the stat sheet of him creating a turnover and immediately just kicking it forward and then letting our athletic players like Keontae George and Agbaji get out in the open floor. So he doesn't see an assist there. He doesn't see, even if he ends up being not the one to get a steal, he doesn't see any sort of thing on the stat sheet there. But it doesn't happen with him if he's not on the court.
It's pretty amazing what he does. He makes every single player out there better. All of a sudden, our entire team plays better defense.
100%.
It's an exponential effect on everybody else around him, not just his own stat line. And he does it without having to require shots and attention. And to me, it's it's kind of mind-boggling that he's only getting these minutes. I'm hoping deep down that it's some sort of a trickeration, strategery, and getting ready to play in big-time minutes once we get into the regular season.
But, or we're looking at trades, right? That we're showcasing some players, and
I sure hope he gets a lot more minutes once we get to the regular season.
Yeah, I hope he gets a lot more minutes, and I hope we get to see Agbaji not just play a backup 3 role.
Or 4.
Or 4. This is a guy, every championship team, you need a 3-and-D guy. He shot 40% tonight. He's obviously struggled with his 3, but he's not been in the best lineups to get good looks, and that's a huge part of that. But every team, the past who knows how long, needs, almost every championship team has had a big-time role player who is a 3-and-D guy, who's not going to go and put up 15, 20 points a game, but could score 15 points one game or 20 points because he hits 5 threes.
Yeah.
But, reading some articles and stuff like that, I was talking with you, that the talk is you could see him right now, a Danny Green, but athletic. I will take that every time, every day of the week. And that is a guy who's going to help you win championships. And that's what I think we need to start doing, is we really need to start putting in pieces that are going to help us win a championship, that's going to take that next step, right? Not necessarily just trying to develop young players. Because at the end of the day, if we're just going to try to play young players and be concerned about, the rebuild and stuff like that, realistically, we should move on from Clarkson. We should move on from Markkanen. If we're not going to, in the next year, take that commitment and just tear it all down again.
Well, the front office's willingness to shop on some pretty big names says that they think that it's not just a bare bones rebuild, right?
Yeah, 100%.
You have to read that into that logic. It's there. There's a lot. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a couple guys who've kind of surprised me so far through 4 games, with their play in a bad way. Colin Sexton has really, really struggled in the starting lineup. He struggled off the bench. Obviously, last game he played well, but overall has looked uncomfortable and looked like he's pressing too much. Is part of that the competition that's going on in training camp right now? I don't know. But also Olynyk. I feel like Olynyk has just been non-existent through 4 games. Like
that's true. We really haven't used him much.
Haven't seen him at all.
He was just 0-2 tonight.
We've been terrible on the boards when he's been on the court as our 5. And someone who I thought was going to come out and play really strong and be a leader of, running a lot of plays and stuff like that. And man, I feel like he has been sat in a corner, and when he's had the ball, has been very passive.
And both of those players really put up, were effective last year in the stretches during the season. So that's a little bit interesting
to see what's happening there.
And it'll be interesting to see how there'll be a time that, we finally do figure out our roles and we'll start to click as a team, whether that happens right at the beginning of the regular season or if it takes a bit, who knows?
That is the thing, Jazz fans, is we may have to struggle through awkward lineups and things like that for half a season. Realistically, we of us, and that comes back down to the comments of Will Hardy saying that we could have a different lineup every 10 games. And a lot of that could be, that could be this season.
It could be. There's talk of so many teams that are going to start panicking about their salary cap situation because, for those of you not in the know, but the most recent collective bargaining agreement, part of it, the financial parts that really starts to penalize teams, goes into effect at the end of this season.
Yes.
In the next offseason. So, and there are many teams that are in trouble. And come time of the trade deadline, there are going to be a lot of teams that are really going to start panicking and trying to move. And the Jazz are in a great position to take advantage of that. And
we have several expiring contracts.
We have the room to do what we want to do. We have room to spend more if we want.
Yep.
And so we're in a great position that way. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. One thing, too, I was going to bring up is, we've talked about kind of how the league in some situations has gone to a, positionless basketball is kind of the goal.
Yeah.
On paper, some of that sounds great, and it's really not been proven to be super duper yet. But I was watching the other day with the Spurs playing, and do you know who they ran as their point guard?
The Spurs?
The Spurs.
So
their number one was Jeremy Sohan.
I was going to say Sohan, and that felt so stupid.
Yeah.
That I wasn't going to.
And they ran Vassell and Wembanyama and Zach Collins at the 5.
Ugh.
And I can't remember who they had at the 3, but it's just kind of the experiment that the league's going to. And I mean, obviously we're experimenting with our guards all around and trying to go with big lineups that are all flexible and everybody brings it up. So some growing pains. Overall, I'm pleased in the last 2 games, just kind of some of the not development, but some of the signs that we're showing that we're kind of getting some of our play style together, and you see some of the signs of players in their roles and everything.
Right.
We're not quite there yet. So we've got 1 preseason game left against Sacramento
Thursday,
and then we play them again for the very first game of the regular season.
Yes.
So does that mean we're going to kind of hold back some stuff when we play them in that preseason game? What's going to go on? That'll be interesting because we have a full week.
And that's the thing
after we
is
play 'em.
Last game of the preseason, we really probably don't see much of our starting big 3, at least our Marketing, Kessler, and Collins are 3 big guys there. We probably don't see much of them in that game, I'm guessing. Unless it is a full revamp and we play as if it's a legit game.
It'd be interesting to see. It was great to see Brice Sensabaugh tonight, get him out there. He looked like he was not really intimidated by it.
Yeah, he looked good.
Taylor Hendricks still looks all stiff and a little bit awkward.
Taylor Hendricks is a guy that it's going to feel frustrating right now, right? But he's a guy that we have to remember, 19-year-old kid still in his rookie season, that we have to be patient with him because the signs are there. The signs are there that this dude is going to be a fantastic player. It's just easy to get impatient with that. That's a kid we need to be patient with his age, especially. And with the guys in front of him, we have the ability to do that. And he's shown that he's going to need it.
There was much talk about maybe us bringing on John Collins was going to be bad for him because it would have covered up his minutes. And now we can see that he probably wasn't ready for that, and he would have been really pressed.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have been good. So the John Collins situation seems to
be working out great.
Been working out great, fit really nicely there.
Now Sensabaugh, like you brought up, that one's more intriguing because it's one game and it's against a non-NBA team, but looked way more like he was ready to get out on a basketball court in an NBA game and play. I'd like to see good minutes out of him in the Sacramento game.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think he's going to put up some monster numbers in the G League.
Yeah.
Hopefully that knee situation of his, I mean, he's had 3 knee surgeries already as a 19-year-old, and that's the scary part.
Right.
His freshman year in college, first part of the year, he was very effective and then kind of petered off and really couldn't play very many minutes because of his knee situation. But an extremely effective scorer, pretty athletic for how big he is too. Questions on defense, but he came out and looked like he was loosey-goosey and ready to go, man.
Yeah.
He looked good.
And we were running plays through him immediately.
Yep. And he's one that's for years has had an NBA-ready jumper and can create space and create his own shot. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Overall, still excited though. Can't wait for the next preseason game.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the regular season to see. I really want to see what the first 10 games is really going to look like with this team as we start really putting out what we want as a team, as an organization.
Yeah, that'll be cool. We've enjoyed some of the comments coming up. If you're a subscriber and you comment on there, we'll comment back or talk to you here on the show. But that's kind of what we're looking to go towards is a big discussion with the followers and whoever wants to talk jazz and other sports.
We're hoping to get these to be just live right after the game and talk back and forth with you guys. Great. Getting to hear from you guys as well is awesome for us. We love the discussion. It gives more people for us to kind of get their point of view and bounce things off.
Love it. Hit us up.
Thanks, guys.